Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack 4 business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franzgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is productivity without the need to force discipline. How can you achieve sustainable productivity and peak performance without constantly forcing discipline? Our guest today is Toms, a Dream Accelerator. Toms is known as a Dream Accelerator and is a transformative coach who empowers leaders to unlock their superpowers and achieve peak performance. He's also a digital nomad born in Latvia. Toms brings a rich and diverse background to his work, holding a master's degree in electronics and experience as a freelance web developer, yoga teacher, and hostel manager. Drawing from his expertise in life coaching, hypnotherapy, tarot cards, Toms has developed his own unique system called tarot coaching, which combines these methods to deliver rapid, transformative results. His holistic approach incorporates tools like gene keys and human design to help clients reach their goals. Today, his passion lies in sustainable productivity coaching, guiding others to harness the power of flow state for lasting success. Toms, welcome. And what's your favorite quote or saying, sir?
My favorite quote is that you create your reality.
Do you have another one that goes with it?
And another one that comes with it is to know and not to do is not to know.
Do you have a business tagline that goes with your work?
My business tagline is productivity that makes your dreams come true.
So what led you to the Dream Accelerator, Toms?
So what led me is life and life experiences. I started with electronics. I got my degree. Then I went for student exchange in Japan for 1 year. I started learning languages, started hiking, and started playing with tarot cards. And as I came back, I realized that I want to be stuck in an office. So I thought, let me travel and work abroad. After travel, volunteering, and working as a freelance web developer, I started practicing yoga, and soon I started teaching yoga. Eventually, I discovered coaching, and I realized that's the impact I want to have. I want to see transformation in people. Coaching is a tool, a platform where I can deliver results. And that's how I become a Dream Accelerator.
Wow, the yoga, I guess that just keeps you really chill. Is that for stretching or is that for meditation or what?
It's actually both. I started with just stretching and physical fitness. And I appreciated the meditation aspect, the spirituality aspect as well. But I didn't go deep into that until a few years later in our practice. Yoga provides both, and you get to choose how deep you want to actually develop into. Getting chill or stretch, because both are connected.
Yeah, usually when I stretch, it's usually trying to get up out of bed, but that's just me, or out of a low-slung chair. Older dude, yoga.
Tom, tell me about it being a digital nomad.
Yes. So what I love about being digital nomad is that I get to work from anywhere I want. And after the work is done, or before the work is done, I get to enjoy any location I want to be. If I feel like going for a hike, I get to go on a hike. If I feel like being on a beach, I get to be on a beach. That idea has really populated my mind since I went to Japan. And after that, I realized the world is open for me. So let me be exactly where I want to be and work from there.
So you also have a unique coaching approach. It's not often I've heard of people doing tarot, but I usually don't see it being applied less in the business sense, but even in a coaching sense. How does that shape itself in that space?
So when I started with the tarot cards, I was more interested into understanding symbolism and subconscious mind. And I came from a background where I was aware that symbolism is used in marketing and sales. All commercials use symbolism to sell emotions to us. I thought one of the best ways how to understand the symbolism, how my own subconscious mind works, is through tarot cards. So I started using tarot cards and play with them. And in the beginning, I used it for readings, like helping to understand people themselves, basically, through the readings and telling nice stories, basically what advertisements do. And I enjoyed it. It was nice. And at the point where I discovered coaching, I realized I can tell these stories, but my success is dependent on how good a storyteller I am. If I tell a good story to my client with tarot cards, they may go and do something about their situation and improve their life. However, if I don't tell a good story and don't sell the idea, then they just had a good, nice story to hear. And that was not my outcome. And I actually want them to do something about their situation, improve their lives, have a transformation. I realized they own their story. And I flipped the script. So instead of me telling them a nice story, I designed a system where they tell me a story, and they basically, because they tell me the story, they own the story. Therefore, they're the ones who go and implement the changes. So basically, I combine the best of both worlds: tarot cards where access the subconscious mind through symbolism, and coaching where people take actions to change their reality.
You find that there's a set of clients this works well with?
It works with people who are stuck and that need some kind of guidance or reassurance that direction where they're going is the right direction.
Toms, one thing that I find interesting is your story is almost the antithesis of the industry where it talks about discipline. You actually don't believe forcing discipline is the answer. Tell me more.
Yes, so discipline is nice and needed. However, forcing it is not sustainable, because what happens if you force yourself in the wrong direction? You exhaust lots of energy and usually come to burnout or something like that. At the worst case, you waste lots of time, lots of energy, and don't get any results. What I love more is going with the flow. The flow takes me like wind takes me. It means that I put myself in a resourceful state in direction where I want to go, following the heart and intuition. If I follow my heart and intuition in direction of my goals, then I don't need to really force anything. I naturally get to do what needs to be done. I believe in consulting my subconscious and my heart so that I get to do what I truly want to do. If I want to have money, I need to make sales. If I need to make sales, I need to make sales calls. There might be some limiting beliefs that prevent me from doing these sales calls proficiently. And that might lead me to conclusion that I don't like it or I'm not good at it. I could force myself on calls and eventually learn that they're not as scary and I'm not as bad and learn from experience. Or I could go through the journey, understand why I feel like these things are happening, understand that I actually want to be on a sales call, and then I don't need to force myself. So either will work, but one is a bit easier.
You have a very holistic view to the whole process. So there's a balance between the person and their personal life and their work life. If you happen to be, let's say, working in a factory, you're making widgets, you're repeating the same task over and over again, it's fairly mundane. There's no higher brain function other than don't put your hand in the way of the moving parts. When you come home, then play sports, soccer, football, or a European audience. Is that a balance? Or when you're talking about work-life balance, are you talking about the person that is in management or a solopreneur where you're doing everything, you're manufacturing the product, but you also have to think about marketing and sales, etc., and then balance it with life? Does it fit all those pieces when you do that holistic approach?
How I like to see the work-life balance is that everything is life. All the work, all the life is life. On the top level, we have two resources. We have time and energy. And we have limited time to dedicate towards work, business, creating widgets, or being with family, with children, whatever the situation. We have limited time. So we get to choose how we distribute it. For most of us, we also have limited energy resources throughout the day. If we choose to drain our energy, whether it's because we believe the work we do is boring, let's say being in factory and doing repetitive tasks, and that seems to be draining, therefore there seems not to be balance, I would say that the work doesn't have to be draining. It's just a matter of perspective. You can enjoy the process, get in flow, and do the work because you know it pays your bills. And then after the work, you get to enjoy your life. So in a holistic approach, it's more about, okay, have these resources, time and energy. How do you want to manage them? How do you want to deal with them? And it's okay to put lots of energy in business if that's your priority. You can, let's say, sacrifice family for a limited period of time, or not. It's a personal, basically, it's a personal preference. So and you have to be happy about it. You made a choice. And if you're truly happy with your choice, all good. It doesn't drain your energy. You're happy with that investment. So that's what I'm aiming. That person is creating their life, the structure of life, in a way that fulfills them with energy, and they feel good about where they have put their energy and time.
What is a gene key and human design impact?
Gene keys and human design, for those who don't know, those are systems like astrology. They're based on astrology and other systems. And basically, I tend to see them as personality tests. This test or any other personality test out there. So that's how I see them. And they are a system which gives you a checklist of things that are likely to work for you and things that are unlikely to work for you. And using these systems, it basically allows you to create a life that's uniquely adaptable to your gifts. For example, gene keys, one of the keys is radiance key. This key tells one thing you can pay attention to be at a good health and radiative. For me specifically, that's movement. So if I know that I have too much stress coming in my life and I see my health going down, maybe some flu coming up or anything along those lines, I know the one thing that works for me the best is increased movement. So I can reassess my last few weeks and days and see, have I moved enough? And I would probably see that I haven't. And then I can say, okay, increase the movement, which reduces the stress. And then I have stress movement balance or stress inflow and stress outflow balance. And by the end of it, I say, oh, okay, this is the strategy I can use so I can keep myself healthy. And for each person, that key would say something else. So there's 64 keys. So there's 64 variations of what's the one thing to keep an eye out for great health. And similarly, for human design, also have very many ways of how to describe it, but essentially it allows you to manage your energy in a way that's makes sense for a person to understand. Okay, you need to do this because of this story. So basically it gives you an explanation why you work the way you work.
I'm very interested, and there's been books written about it. I'm very interested in your take on the flow state.
Yes. So how I like to describe flow state, because many people haven't heard about it. However, everyone has experienced it. And how I describe it is when you have a really amazing conversation with someone and time seems to fly, you forget about all the other things around you, that's flow state. Or maybe you're watching a movie and you're so into the movie that you just forget about everything. That's flow state. And you can experience flow state in any activity whatsoever if you choose to. It could be in a factory, it could be marketing, writing emails, doing taxes, whatever the task, it is possible to get into the flow, have this similar feeling. There's a structure for it, and there's a system called to get in there, but essentially it is possible. And the idea that it may not be possible for me or may not be possible for this specific task is the biggest challenge of actually getting into the flow state. So that's what I'm starting with. It is possible for you specifically, and it can be possible in any action. However, it's not always productive to engage in every single action, if that makes sense. So why wouldn't it be possible, productive to engage in every single action? It's because sometimes there are limiting beliefs that require lots of work to get rid of for you to get in a flow state. So sometimes it's easier to automate, delegate, or eliminate the tasks from your list so you don't even do the things that don't need to be done. And why would you try to train yourself to doing a task that doesn't need to be doing in the first place? And for everything that has to be done, I recommend going to the flow state. Train yourself to be able to be in a flow, because this is something you need to do. If you don't need to do, you need to do and want to do. That's an important part. You need to be wanting to do the thing as well. Because if you don't want to do the thing, it's hard to convince yourself to go into flow and enjoy the task.
It reminds me of every time I've been told to exercise. Is hypnotherapy part of the flow state, or is that where you just induce a flow state, or are you just shifting the person's perspective?
Hypnotherapy is a tool, and the tool can allow you to access any state. So through hypnotherapy, you can be trained to access any state, including flow state. So it can be a nice way how to train yourself, remove limitations, and basically give you a permission to enjoy your exercises.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If I only knew it was that simple.
It can be, if done professionally, and if you really buy into a story through the session of hypnotherapy, it can be that simple.
What are the myths of the productivity? What are the myths that you think are keeping the small business owner back?
One of the myth is that what I mentioned is that flow state is not available for me. And because the flow state is not available, I need to struggle and push the work. And basically, I need to go through this struggle here. And another thing is that keeps productivity away is just being stuck. And when a person is stuck or stressed, then they try to convince themselves that things that are good for them are not good for them. Taking a break. Usually, if it's a creative task to be done, you cannot think it through and trying to push through it. You need to actually allow yourself to be relaxed. So basically, the myth is that this is not available for me, this will not work, and taking a break is unproductive. So these are the most common myths.
Integrating this into a normal routine. So I'm a solopreneur, I run a retail shop, mom and pop level. How do I integrate the enjoyment and the fulfillment, and then at the same time meet my operational obligations? Or even better yet, because some things never run true to plan, plans of mice and men, you get a curveball every once in a while. How do you keep it balanced? That's unfortunate, but maybe there's I believe there's an old adage about the farmer and the horse, where the horse runs off and someone comes up and says, "Oh, poor you," and the guy goes, "Yeah, maybe," and then the story builds from there, right? There's like several layers of where it seems like an unfortunate event, but it was timely, so because it allowed something else to happen or not happen. How do you get a person to get into that headspace where they're going, you know what, I'm enjoying this, I'm fulfilled. There are challenges, which usually cause us to have doubt on occasion. How do you bring that into place?
The first things to address in any situation is person has to be in good health. Because if you're not in a good health, you don't have energy and you don't have capacity to enjoy anything. So first, you need to be checked, like a checkbox. Is your health in good shape? Is your health and energy levels at a place where you actually are physically able to enjoy any task? And if not, why not? And then if not, then it needs to be addressed. How have you put yourself in position? Basically, reverse engineer how you have designed and created your life where you don't have health, where you don't have energy, and where you don't feel fulfilled. And from that place, we can basically flip the script and say, okay, if this is a strategy how you got yourself in a current position, let's do opposite. Let's basically let's get rid of whatever is not working and do something else. And usually looking from eagle's eye perspective, like me as a coach, it's very easy to see which is the better direction, because yes, I'm taking up one wall out of the 4. So there's 3 directions left to go. If let's say you're in a box, square. From coach perspective, usually it's easy to see which one of the 3 remaining perspectives directions would be the more valuable for a client. So yeah, basically start with the health, then go with energy. And then as we go on a journey, there's always feedback. So what seems to be the things that are fulfilling? And usually people I work with have enough life experience so that they know what actually fulfills them. They have done something in their lives. So just by digging in the past, you can have enough clues to see which direction, what would be the next steps to try on. And if nothing works, try anything, get feedback. And with the feedback, you will see how fulfilling is a thing.
This might actually be a corollary for what you just said, but I'm interested. We always hear about trying to avoid burnout. But if you're burnt out, you're actually in that place. What do you do then?
So if you're burned out already, then the first thing you do is accept the situation as this. The most difficult and most unproductive thing to do at that stage is try to deny it or try to even guilt and shame yourself for getting in there, because that adds a layer on top and drains energy. So the sooner you're able to accept the current situation, your capacity and ability to do stuff or inability to do stuff, the faster you can recover. And usually, my experience is that people get into a burnout by not following their heart and intuition and doing the things they didn't need to do in the first place. So the sooner a person allows themselves to do the thing they actually want to do and enjoy what they do, the burnout withers away. That's the fastest way. It may not happen overnight because there's also physical damage and all these things to work through, but that seems to be the least resistance way, where you focus on doing things you love. Because what I've experienced, the love is the most healing energy in the universe, and doing a thing you love, for most people, seems to do the trick.
When a client comes on knocking, first off, when does a client know they should reach out to you? What are the symptoms they're experiencing? What are the aha moments or the epiphany that they typically come across to realize, because all they're doing is reacting, right, to circumstance. I guess reaching out to you is the proactive side, but what are the cues for them to go, "I'm gonna get a hold of Tom's"?
The first one is they're stuck in somewhere and not sure how to unstuck in themselves. They try things and they're either not working or they're not working as fast as they want. So they're having either plateaued or the progress is not getting results they want. Okay. And since I'm not getting what I want, I'm trying things and they seem not to be working. Let me see if there's someone else that can help me. And then they come to me and then we work together to realize what can be done.
The person, if they start paying attention to this, obviously it's not a light switch. It's quite literally, you tell someone, turn on the lights, it's like on goes the switch. But with the human beings, the switch is part of the journey, but there's more and more steps to it. How do you get a person to start forming a new habit? Because the habits approach, is there something that they should do daily that keeps them tuned in and aligned?
So to form any habit, there's many nice tips and tricks about forming habits. And the one that I like the most is heart-centered approach. And one habit that anyone can do right now, practically throughout the day, is asking yourself, what do I want? And the more you ask yourself, what do I want? You will start programming your mind and brain into focusing on what you want instead of what you don't want. And the clearer the picture will become of what is it that you truly want. And as you have a clear picture of what truly you want, you have this path towards your desires, your dreams, your ambitions, and the habits that need to be done. And the more you focus on what needs to be done, easier it is for you to take that step. And again, let's say you want to implement more exercise or more stretching in your daily routines. How do you help yourself to do it from a flow-based way? You asked, why do I want to do that? What do I want? I want health. Like, it's not exercise you want. You probably want health, or for me to be flexibility or strength or ability to climb a mountain any time of the day. So that's my vision for myself. I wake up, and if I haven't, so if someone comes up to me and says, Toms, let's go on a hike, I said, let's go. I'm ready. I don't need no preparation. I don't need the planning. I'm ready. My body is ready. So that's my vision for myself. And that's what I encourage everyone else to do, is ask yourself, what do you want? And allow yourself to have that vision. And if you have a vision to go towards and a clear vision, then it's easier for you to take those steps. And you can also go in a smaller, okay, now I know a vision. I want to be able to climb a mountain 8 hours a day whenever someone comes up, so that I don't need to have few weeks to train for it. So obviously I need to be in shape. So that means I need to do exercise regularly. So obviously you see that I need to do exercise. And then you can associate the good feelings from going on a hike to those exercises. And then you realize that you actually want to do those exercises, because that's the price to get what you want. And through these associations, you realize, actually I want to do these exercises, because if I don't do those exercises, I have the other alternative where I don't get what I want, which is I'm not able to hike in mountains and I feel miserable and all these things. You can play around with pleasure and pain. Basically set yourself up for success, where you find that you really want to do what you need to do.
Do you find that it's having a strategy, but do you also find that the strategy is partly built, getting a coaching, but also peers, people around you that are aligned as part of the process?
Yes, we are social beings, and it is a lot easier to make any change in life where you have people around you, because usually change involves changing beliefs, thinking, habits. So it involves lots of change. And it's a lot easier to have other people who are thinking like you, or that like the change you want to make. And that gives you a supportive network, which normalizes the change. Basically says, this new thing we're doing is normal. And it also gives you different ways how to deal with challenges. And basically it's an accelerator where you could do everything on your own, figure out everything. It will work. It might be harder, take a bit longer. But if you surround yourself with like-minded people, suddenly you can learn not from your own experience, but other people's experience. It reinforces your subconscious mind that this thing we're doing here, this change we're going through, is normal. Because see, other people doing this. It's normal. I'm accepted. I'm enjoying the journey because other people are enjoying it. And there's lots of benefit of being in a community. Yeah.
I'm assuming from what you've said and what you haven't said, that diet plays a big role in productivity. Could you unpack that in your opinion?
The diet is a very interesting topic. And I have my own diet. I eat a vegan diet, and I don't necessarily advocate everyone to go for a vegan diet. Why? Because how I see the diet, just a fuel. I can put a good quality fuel, bad quality fuel, and any food and any substance I consume for me is amplifier of emotion. Basically, it gives me certain feeling, certain sensation, and by choosing foods, I can choose how do I want to feel throughout the day. So there are certain foods that will make me activated, certain foods that will make me drowsy, and I get to choose which foods I put in my system. If I have experience that there are certain foods that make me feel exhausted after eating them or eating too much of them, then obviously I don't want to do that if I want to be productive that day. However, I might want to enjoy them once in a while. So if I see food and diet as means to cultivate energy, then it's very important. However, there is no one diet fits all, because sometimes my beliefs override the actual food through placebo or nocebo effect. Because if I have a strong belief that meat is, let's say, bad for me, if I have a strong belief that meat is bad for me, and that means that if I try to eat it, then I induce lots of stress in my system, because there's this part of me which is stressed every time I eat meat, or other way around. If I choose to be a vegan and there's subconscious belief which says I need meat, then there's a problem, because body's under stress. I'm not getting what I need. And therefore, lots of energy over time gets lost in this worry and fear. So there's stress in the body. And this is leakage. And how I like to explain energy drains is when you have a paper cup and the cup is full with water, is when you put the holes in there, you have water leaking. And the more holes you put, the more and more water and faster it drains. And same goes with diet. You have to pick a diet which leads you in the direction you want to go, which means taking into account all the beliefs, your lifestyle, your goals, your environment. So all these things have to be taken into account, and then picking the high leverage things, because you can go very minute, but it sometimes doesn't make sense. So you want to be sure that you take the high leverage things, the most impactful things, and then see what role the diet plays actually in there. And sometimes it's very simple. Eat this, avoid that and that, and everything else doesn't matter.
It reminds me of why sometimes when I eat pasta with high carbs, why I like going for a nap thereafter. It's a great sleeping medication. Not necessarily good for weight loss, though.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
The sustainability is kind of a key thing. And sustainability is not so much about the ecology, but it's about us being able to do what we want to do on a regular basis, come adversity or good fortune. What does it mean to be sustainable, to be productive? What do you define that as? Is it like everything is going 100% of the time? You got the game plan figured out. You're able, it's almost like you're skiing down a hill. You don't know if there's a bear halfway down the pipe, or all of a sudden, or there's a tree that wasn't there earlier. And ta-da, you're now faced with a choice. Is that being sustainable when high stress, high shift? Or do you put yourself in a situation, or do you just allow for compensation for things that force change?
So for me, sustainability is, will I be able to get what I want long term in 10, 20, 30, 100 years? So if I zoom out on my life, so how do I see myself at 120 years old? So how do I see myself? Do I see myself being in good health, fit, lots of energy, still doing the things I want to do? Or I see myself popping pills, being bedridden, awesome, whether, or maybe already dead. Maybe I see myself in graveyard by that time, by that age. So sustainability for me is having a clear vision and in long term. And the question is whether the action that I'm about to take, there's always a decision. I'm faced with a decision, whether I go to this podcast, whether to listen to the podcast, whether to listen to this podcast to the very end, or to drop off the call right now, what to do after, what to eat for the dinner, what time to go to sleep, all these decisions. And whenever a decision comes, the question is, what's the impact on my life's vision in long term? And is this impact sustainable? Is this going to put me off the track, or doesn't? So basically, is it aligned, neutral, or not aligned? And I would go sustainable if it's neutral or aligned. If it puts me off the path, it's not sustainable. And then, of course, you can put degrees, how much of the path it will take me. And then this is where the productivity comes in. Productivity is my ability to achieve what I want, get the results I want, and seeing the progress towards them. So if there's something specific I want and it's short term, and I see that it may take me off the path temporarily, the question is the price of me going off the path of sustainability high enough, or that I can recover or not? Because let's say there's a project I'm working on and it can induce a certain amount of stress. And there's a time deadline. I may need to work a bit more hours, sleep a bit less. And this project is, let's say, only a week. So I know that if I cut my sleep for 1 week, that's a price I can pay. However, then I need to dedicate it for next 2-3 weeks. I sleep adequately. Then I can measure whether paying a certain price of lack of sleep for 1 week is something I can recover from. And am I willing to pay this price? And at the end of the day, am I willing to pay this price to get this project going in the time I want to get going? And then you decide. is it sustainable or not? Because if I know I'm young and I'm good health and I can recover fast, maybe it's a good trade-off. Or maybe if I know that I'm already a bit sick, already been working hard for a few months already, and then I realize I'm not in a position to make this trade-off anymore, because then recovery would be 3-4 months and I'm missing out on many other stuff. Yeah, as I mentioned before, that example, when I'm already in a burnout, I cannot make trade-offs anymore. Like train is gone. It's not sustainable to put myself in enforcing situations. I have to look for other solutions that are actually sustainable. Because when I already burn out, if I try to force and push myself, I don't put myself off for 1 week. I put myself probably for half a year or something like that. So sustainability productivity is realizing what do I want and seeing it being in a big picture. And can I recover? And what's the price of recovery? And then going with it.
So if you were distilling down what you've told us into 1 or 2 points for the average entrepreneur, what would they be?
So the first one, I would say, everyone, ask, what do you want? And then listen to your heart. So keep asking yourself, what do you want? That will keep you aligned with your heart, follow your intuition, and then listen to it. And the best way how to listen to your intuition is actually being in a flow state or any kind of harmonious state of mind. So basically, what I'm saying is ask yourself, what do I want? And then feel. Allow yourself to feel. And if the feeling you feel is harmonious, like love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, then you're on the right track. If the feeling is not harmonious, then look for another solution. Then look for more answers. Change something. Try to get back to yourself feeling a good feeling. And that's it. So listen to your heart and be in the flow.
Toms, when you're engaging a client, is this something you do that's a weekend? Is this something you do over a couple of months? Is this something where they see you for a year? What are the variables that drive the process?
So I have multiple offers, and some of them are one-off. I meet them, I give them guidance, like tarot coaching. I give them guidance, they get their answer, and they can work on their own. If they're independent, like if they're good action taker, all they need is a bit of guidance. They receive the guidance, and off they go for a few months. They implement, they do the tasks, and that's it. Some people need a bit more guidance and they want faster results. And then we work for 3 months or 6 months.
So if this resonates and our listeners go, I want more of that, how do we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on almost any social media. You can find my website, Dream Accelerator, Toms.com. And then from there, in the contacts, reach me out either through email, through WhatsApp, LinkedIn, or Instagram. So any platform you feel comfortable, reach out to me and let's chat.
I want to say thank you to Toms, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If this is going, hey, I need some of that, reach out to Toms. Get into the flow. That's a really important state to be in, because then you're in harmony with what's going on around you.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner. And Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.